This video is about the American Revolution. The revolution started in 1765 with the first Congress of the American Colonies. The end was the formal recognition of the American independence by Great Britain in 1783. France supported the American colonies, and also Spain and the Netherlands were involved. To the background. The British could drive the French out of North America during the French and Indian War. But this war was very expensive. In parallel, there was the 7 Years' War in Europe, and Britain had high public debt. Against this background, they wanted to optimize their public income and pass taxes and trade legislation that also affected the American colonies. In the American colonies, a more independent, open-minded mentality grew alongside the stronger will, or the will to have more self-determination. Now, as mentioned, the French were out of North America, so the necessity of a British protection was not there anymore. Now to the events. First, it should be mentioned that ideas of independence were much earlier. The Liberty Bell was casted as early as 1752. But now, as mentioned, the British Parliament declared taxes, and for the first time these taxes affected the mass population in North America. So North American colonies were not happy. The first Congress of the American colonies said, "We're still loyal to the king," but they made firmly clear no taxation without representation. Then a few months later, the British Parliament, British government, took the laws back, all was fine again. This procedure was repeated with the Townshend Act, but this time, not all laws were repealed. The taxes on tea were still in place, and tea should play an important role during the next events. It should be mentioned, important date was the 5th of March, 1770. British troops shot 5 protesting Americans in Boston. The Tea Act was passed in London to subsidize the East India Company, and that was a disadvantage for the American traders. Of course, in America, nobody was happy, and now we have the famous Boston Tea Party. Disguised as Indians, Americans destroyed 3 shipments of tea, just throwing the tea into Boston Harbor. Now, that can't be, from London, from a British point of view, that can't be. What are the colonies doing? So the British Parliament passed the coercive acts, from an American point of view, intolerable acts, and the conflict was on. The First Continental Congress declared the intolerable acts are not in line with the Constitution, and they formed an independent government and militias. So the War of Independence could start, and it started with the battles of Lexington and Concord. The Second Continental Congress declared the necessity of taking up arms, made George Washington, overall commander, but also for the last time set a peace offer to the British king. It was rejected. The British were driven out of Boston, and now we have the 13 colonies firmly under American control. The Second Continental Congress passed the Declaration of Independence, and from now on, from the 4th of July 1776, the United States of America the United States of America are born. Now, the British advance took Fort Ticonderoga, could capture Philadelphia, but were repulsed in the battles of Saratoga. Some historians say it's the turning point of the war. But what was more important was a French-American alliance, and now the British naval supremacy was threatened. It was a very successful British campaign in the south, but then the naval battle of Chesapeake Bay, the freedom came from the sea, and the Battle of Yorktown. It was a decisive American-French victory. Then the British had to accept or formally recognize the independence of the 13 colonies in 1783. Now, the main result is the foundation of the United States of America, who could flourish from then onwards. The American Revolution was more. It was also a forerunner. It was the first of some revolutions to come in Europe, to mention here the French Revolution. Around 50,000 loyalists had to move from the British colonies, so from the United States to Canada. And it was a massive shock in Great Britain to lose these colonies. But yeah, after a while, there were reforms on a political and administrative level, and the Second Empire was built with the center in Asia. This was the American Revolution in 5.